Hey everyone, and welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're looking at a massive collision happening right now in July 2026. If you track the AI space, you know it moves incredibly fast. But this month, well, we're unpacking how sudden breakthroughs in AI capabilities are quite literally crashing into massive state deployments and unprecedented federal regulations. We've got a lot of fascinating ground to cover.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our agenda. First, the Claude capability jump. Second, California's massive platform bet. Third, the emerging government clearance layer. And finally, we'll wrap up with the broader state of the AI industry. All right, Section 1, the Claude capability jump, specifically looking at Sonnet 5 as the new default. So, Anthropic just dropped a massive dual announcement on July 1st. First up, the US Department of Commerce lifted export controls, which means Claude Fivals is globally restored. But honestly, while that's an important fix, the real product story, the actual game changer here, is the launch of Claude Sonnet 5. And this brilliantly illustrates the leap we're talking about. Look at these agentic coding benchmarks. Now, agentic just means the AI's ability to autonomously plan and execute multi-step tasks, right? Previously, if you wanted that top-tier autonomous work, you had to pay a premium for the Opus 4.8 tier, which sat at 69.2%. Sonnet 4.6 was lagging pretty far behind at 58.1%. But Sonnet 5? It just leaped to 63.2%. It practically bridges the gap, pulling near Opus capabilities right down into the mid-tier price band. Anthropic just made this incredibly powerful agentic capability the default for every single free user on their platform. Now, you might be wondering, what does this actually mean for developers? Well, right now, Anthropic is offering introductory API pricing for Sonnet 5. We're talking $2 per million input tokens and $10 per million output tokens. But, and this is a big but, after August 31st, that jumps up to standard pricing of $3 and $15. So this creates a really critical temporary window. If you're a developer running production workflows, you have exactly until the end of August to reevaluate your API pricing tiers and figure out if Sonnet 5 is the new cost-effective sweet spot for your architecture. The clock is absolutely ticking on that one. Moving on to Section 2, California's massive platform bet. This represents a total structural shift in state procurement. Governor Gavin Newsom just announced an unprecedented statewide procurement deal with Anthropic. They are making Claude the first AI productivity tool available to literally all state agencies, cities, and counties across California. And the architecture of this deal shows that this is not just some small experimental pilot. No, this is a massive platform bet. We are talking centralized procurement for the entire state, a 50% discount, completely free workforce training, and a $15 million cyber defense program. State workers are actually out there right now using this to reduce DMV wait times, optimize Medicaid workflows, and automate cyber defense patching. They're weaving this tech into the very fabric of how the state operates and delivers civic life. Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer contrast in AI statecraft. On one side of the coin, you have California and Anthropic building a highly centralized civic and cyber-focused deployment at the state level. Then, on the exact opposite side, you have the Federal Department of Defense partnering with OpenAI. That is a purely defense-focused, federal-level deployment where they specifically refuse to carve out restrictions preventing autonomous weapons use. It is a fascinating look at two entirely different trust frameworks and procurement strategies playing out at the exact same time in the US. And we absolutely cannot overstate the market impact of this California deal. Securing the largest US state as a flagship enterprise customer, that provides an incredibly crucial unit economic story for Anthropic. As they gear up for their anticipated IPO roadshow, having a structural, statewide deployment like this is exactly the kind of massive proof point for enterprise reliability that investors are desperately looking for. It's a huge win for them. All right, this brings us to the climax of today's Explainer. Section 3. The emerging government clearance layer and national security. So while California is busy buying up AI for civic use, the federal government is quietly intervening in the release of frontier models. They are specifically stepping in on national security grounds regarding OpenAI's highly anticipated GPT 5.6. Let's look at the new durable capability tiers here. You've got Luna as the fast, affordable tier. Then Terra sitting in the middle, giving you GPT 5.5 quality at half the cost. But at the very top is Sol, the flagship. Sol's Ultra Mode uses orchestrated subagents to reach a staggering 91.9% on Terminal Bench 2.1. That is a gold standard test for complex problem solving, and 91.9% is insanely powerful. However, you can't use it yet. It's currently gated in a limited preview to only about 20 government-approved partner organizations. Why? Because the administration formally requested a staggered public release on national security grounds. Which naturally leads us to ask, is this the new default for frontier AI? Think about it. We've had two major model releases in just 2 weeks, Fable 5 and now GPT 5.6 Sol. And both of them were gated or restricted by government action before the public could fully access them. Are we witnessing a permanent shift here? Is the administration now treating frontier AI as regulated technology that requires a sign-off, even without clear statutory rules or public criteria in place? So the crucial point is captured perfectly right here. Whether it's officially codified in law or not, frontier AI releases have absolutely entered a de facto government clearance layer. For enterprise developers, this means the models you're building on can be gated, delayed, or restricted by national security review with zero public criteria and absolutely no predictable timeline. This introduces a massive new planning variable that literally did not exist 6 months ago. You now have to factor in the very real possibility of unannounced government intervention on your core infrastructure. Okay, let's move to Section 4 and see how this builds across the rest of the tech ecosystem. It's time for some rapid-fire state of the AI industry updates. Looking at the broader ecosystem, the momentum is just nonstop. SpaceX is officially joining the NASDAQ 100 on July 7th, which really reflects this massive tech cap growth. Meanwhile, open weights models, meaning open source style models from DeepSeek and Alibaba, saw absolutely massive volume spikes. Developers were frantically looking for alternatives during the recent Claude Phi lockout, and those open models absorbed the shock. But perhaps the most staggering update is the hardware cost to actually run all this stuff. NVIDIA's Vera Rubin hardware platform is on track for the second half of 2026. The baseline VR200 racks, they are priced at an eye-watering $7.8 million each for hyperscale data centers. The sheer amount of capital required to compete at the frontier right now is astronomical. And the big legacy tech players are actively pivoting to manage this new reality. Meta is holding its capital expenditure guidance steady at a massive $125 to $145 billion just to support their infrastructure. Apple's iOS 27, complete with that foundational Siri overhaul, is still on track for this autumn. But on the flip side, Google is actually delaying the general availability of Gemini 3.5 Pro to July. And the reason is fascinating. Enterprise testers gave them feedback about excessive token consumption during extended agentic tasks. It just goes to show that even for the absolute giants of the industry, scaling autonomous, multi-step agents efficiently is a really, really complex hurdle. So this brings us to a critical crossroads for the industry. And I want to leave you with this final thought. We've seen Sonnet 5 push near Opus capabilities down to incredible introductory pricing. The raw power of AI is becoming more accessible and way more cost-effective than ever before. But at the exact same time, models like GPT 5.6 Sol are being actively held back in government-gated previews. So how will developers navigate a future where capability is incredibly cheap, but deployment is gated by unpredictable national security reviews? That is for sure the defining tension of 2026. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you in the next one.